Do you like true crimes? And do you also like Creatures of Sonaria? If you do, that's good because today we're going to be making a little series known as Creatures of Sonaria True Crimes. And before we start, by all means, the quote unquote true crimes are no way real life situations. Okay, just letting it out there. This is more of like fictional writing than anything because I'm overly exaggerating and also dramatizing a player or a group of players like retelling of an experience or a gaming session. I'm just making it so they sound a little more creepy, a little more eerie, and the people who sent these stories to me are fully aware of it, they're consensual about it, and they acknowledge what I'm doing about them. So by all means, like I said, take it as fictional writing more than anything. They're not real life cases with police and whatnot. So yeah, with that being said, and if you feel like these stories might be a little too coincidentally related to you, they're not. Okay? This is all just a coincidence. If it feels like it's targeting towards you, it's not. Okay? Let's all settle that in and let's talk about today's crime. I'm sure all of you are aware of what revenge killing is, and if not, here's a brief explanation. Revenge killing is an act that is pretty self explanatory. When you're dissatisfied with someone beating your species or your friends, you go back after the attacker to get back at them. Usually, players stop right after like a successful kill. However, there are some people who would go a step too far, and today we're talking about one of these cases. Our story begins with someone we'll call Susan. Susan and her friends went on Creatures of Sonaria to enjoy themselves of a peaceful experience free from real life stress. As she had just recently finished her studies for the preparation of her exams, she thought she would wind down by hanging out with her friends in her favorite game. It all went as usual, they grew their species, they entertained themselves by traveling around the map and just doing some all sorts of goofy Creatures of Sonaria player things. Until they were suddenly attacked by an ankle biter. Susan was playing as her prize candle, a creature that she claimed to have kept in her inventory ever since the first release of the candle species. So it had a lot of memories and sentimental value to her. So when she was being attacked, she obviously cried out for help, and her friends, being good friends, came all to her aid and started just going back and forth with this ankle biter. And after a few bit of intense and stressful causing and PvP, they were able to pry off the little Minawi and killed it. And they thought nothing of it, right? Until something was said in chat that kind of broke their sense of blissfulness. In chat, someone said, "They will get you for this." Not something you would really like to hear when you've done nothing wrong but defend yourself. So they tried going back and forth with the person to see what he would like to say next. But unfortunately, this stranger wouldn't respond. So, feeling immensely tensed, Susan decided that it would be best just to leave the server entirely for another. And as her friends and her like rejoined another lobby, they figured that, well, it's just what happened. Going back to their playful gaming, where they almost entirely forgot about the situation, just until Susan's friend turned to see a same Manawi with the same skin lurking at the rocks. It shook her. It kind of scared her. But she brushed it off as like a mere coincidence, like you have thousands of players. At some point, you might have repetitive skins. So they went on their way, and as they were going, they were attacked. The Minawi launched towards them. The viciously angle biting creature player went up and started stacking all their ailments and doing massive damage to this convoy of species over time. And they really tried to put up a fight. They weren't like bad players, they weren't newbies either. They really were putting up a good fight against the Manawi, but for some reason, it just wouldn't die or leave them alone. And at some point, it overwhelmed them. And this little simple Manawi completely wiped out an entire pack. It was a complete shocker which terrified even Susan, an equally seasoned player, and she has just lost her beloved candle. They all obviously try to yell at the chat to try and see what the stranger might say, to get a raise and a reaction, just to yell and bicker. There was no response. She threatened that she would report this because this is considered witch hunting. And before she could take a screenshot, he left the game. Feeling worn down and sort of defeated, they decided that it was time to give it a rest. And ever since this ordeal, she just couldn't stop thinking about how she lost her candle. So she stopped and said goodbye to her friends. She closed her device. She went back to studying to get her mind off this entire thing. And as she was studying, she forgot how fast time went. And as she looked at the time, it was already night. And since it was closing into a bedtime, she thought she would play another session with her friends to kind of like conclude the day in a good way. Still very defeated, her friends nonetheless decided that it would be a good change to just go back to the game and just relax. So that's what they did. They went back to the experience and it was all okay. For a first moment, they just started playing as their own, just peacefully roaming around the map until they saw the same skin Manawi, but it was another user, right? So they were terrified. They didn't know what the hell was happening. And so as soon as they saw it, before it could like come at them, they tried attacking the Minawi. They all went after it, and before they could chase it down and kill it, it was gone. He might have menued or logged. They had no idea where they went, and because it was another user, they weren't prepared for it. And as he was like just scoping out the map and the user list, it ambushed them. Right next to them, they were completely overpowered by this small, tiny Minawi. And again, they are very good players. By their own right, Susan and her friends were seasoned, so they tried doing all their best. And because they were not prepared, and one of her friends was like out of tab, they were completely overran by this simple Manawi who again wiped their entire pack. And as they were just completely baffled, Susan hurriedly go to the user to find out who this Manawi was. And before she could report anything to it, she realized that the account that this user was currently using was in an old account. Something that he was well aware that she was going to do, and that even if she did report and this report went through, it's just an old account. And so Susan just stared at her screen as these bloodshot letters appears telling her that her creature died. She was utterly defeated. Again, how? And just as she was trying to process it all, a very disturbing thought came into her mind. Like she didn't immediately leave and come back within an hour. No, she took half the day to forget about what just happened and she came back. And that same player immediately joined her. And so she wondered, how long did he wait, seated behind the screen, staring at her joint activities, to then actively go inside to revenge kill her one more time? And that really made her skin crawl, which she left and she went to sleep. Obviously, this is a very bad situation for the poor girls. I'd be freaked the fuck out if anyone did something like this to me. And I don't know where this person is, but I know for a fact that he's still out there. Anyways, if you like this type of content, let me know. Stay tuned and have a good day, right? And thank you so much for watching.